Well, hello everyone, and happy Friday evening. I am actually recording this on the Friday evening myself, so both of us will get to watch this on the same day. My plan for today is to record at least 2 voiceovers, so there is going to be another one I'll be recording right after. Which, how do I feel about that? I honestly don't really know. I've been feeling very tired recently, if you want me to be entirely honest, because it has been the last week of school until my Christmas break, and those are usually the worst, because teachers just love to put in all of the work into this last week, all the assignments, all the tests, and then you just kind of have to survive it. And I feel so burnt out, but I'm trying to also find ways to motivate myself so that I could still post on YouTube. I feel like I'm maybe school burnt out, but not YouTube burnt out, which is a very hard thing to explain. I feel like a lot of people probably understand this. It's just school is very tiring itself because it's not something you want to do. And when it comes to work, it's such a huge difference between, stuff that you're forced to do and stuff that you want to do. Because stuff that you want to do, you just kind of get it out of the way almost immediately. And I've always had a very hard time grasping it all. But when you really think about it, it does just kind of make sense, and that's why I wish for everyone, for all of you, to actually end up doing the things that you love in life and not the things that you're forced to do, because the difference is so huge. I feel like I used to be very good with my grades, and this year and probably the year before, I've been kind of slacking because I started focusing on my mental health more. And I guess another thing that really kind of affected this all is the fact that I don't know, once you start realizing how much fun it is to work and do something that you like, you never want to really go back. And I feel like that has really gotten into, my situation with grades, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And like always, I am basically kind of just rambling about nothing and everything at once, which is stupid, but it always happens. And I should be talking about the house because this is part 9, the long-awaited part 9 that so many of you were commenting about. And honestly, I don't even know where to begin. I feel so bad because I can only imagine how annoying it is when you start building a house and it's not really fully posted. And there's still so much stuff to post. There's so many voiceovers that we're gonna go through with this build because this build was huge. For those of you who don't know, this build did take me 6 months. So it was an entire spring of 2022, even winter. I think it was winter as well. And I finished it in May. So when I posted it was when I was actually done with it. But yeah, it took me 6 months. And for a Bloxburg build, that is a very, very long time. Of course, I didn't work on it nonstop because my schedule did not allow me to. But every single free minute that I got, I tried my best to make sure that I had at least some progress with this house. And eventually it did come together. But it was a very hard task to actually just finish this, because I remember building the basement and I was just like, oh my goodness, when is this gonna stop? And it did. And it was well worth it because you guys seem to really enjoy this house. And I guess Ave, the person who I was actually building this for, which I'm really thankful for because she's partially the reason why she's making the rest of these speed builds possible. So another minute of honesty. I had a really big fail right after I took screenshots of this house. Almost all of them went missing. It was 200 screenshots, which is an insanely big amount of screenshots. And I was planning to, edit them all and stuff, which also takes kind of a long time. I feel like I spend at least 15 or 10 minutes on each screenshot because I do edit them myself to make sure they're a bit more realistic. I just kind of like to make my build sort of like renders, which is exactly what, architects do when it comes to rendering. They also use Photoshop. It's a really fun experience. I feel like being an architect and a YouTuber, it kind of makes you a jack of all trades. I know people say that, you're good at everything but bad at everything at the same time if you're a jack of all trades, but I mean in the good way, because you have to learn so much, so many things you have to do by yourself. You need to learn how to Photoshop if you want to post videos on YouTube. It is a whole job to be a YouTuber, let me tell you, editing videos, constantly putting out content, which not everyone can do it. That is me. but I am trying my best. I feel like I've been sort of okay this week, where I posted, the part 2 of the Autumn Suburban, and now I'm posting this, and I obviously will post the other speed build, and I would really like to record a challenge video tomorrow, so I'll see how that goes, because I want to have a Christmas build kind of out for, the Christmas season. I feel like you guys deserve that, and I feel like I deserve to have some fun with building once in a while and actually do something, I don't know, just not planned, really spontaneous. And I feel like with building, this is when it gets fun, when you're doing just something so spontaneous, because you don't really need to think about all of the small details and stuff. You just kind of go with the flow, and it usually works out. And since it's like a challenge, it doesn't really matter, because like it's a challenge, So it's always really fun to do them, and I feel like I deserve that, especially after, the school weeks that I've had, which are, oh my god, they were killing me. This week was probably the worst of it all, but that is expected considering it was the last one after like 6. But yeah, like just going to school at 8 a.m. and then leaving it free every single day for 6 weeks, well, not counting weekends. That really takes a toll on you, especially if you go to a school where you don't really enjoy it there. And spoiler alert, that's what's happening with my school. I guess I just I've always felt like I don't belong, and I feel like I'm talking about this because a lot of people don't feel like they belong, and they think that because they don't belong in school, they won't belong anywhere else. And I don't know, I feel like I can be a good example to tell you that that's simply not true. It's just, it always takes time to find your people. And I guess we're going into psychology a bit here, but we always do that, so don't we? But yeah, I'm here to tell you that that is not true, because your people will eventually come. It's just, school is a place where everyone is kind of forced to be there, and you only find people who are like you when you do things that you love, and I feel like I kind of had this lesson. My first lesson about this was actually when I started Bloxburg, because I came from a place which was really toxic, and I felt so accepted in the community, which is why I'll always be so thankful for it, because I don't know, I felt like I belonged somewhere for once, and it never felt odd to me. And I feel like, just being in the Bloxburg community is a really good example of how life works, because you always find yourselves in different communities, and in these communities, if you actually share like same interests, and just you're very likely to actually even think similarly, and that makes a really huge difference on friendships and just people you meet and relationships. And yeah, it's a huge change. So I was really happy to meet all of the friends that I have up until now, which is so many people that I met, but every single one made me feel like I was enough, and that I wasn't, the odd one out. I was always just kind of like, oh yeah, well, it's him, everything's fine with him, like he's cool. And it was a really big shock to actually learn that people see me this way, because I was never used to it. Of course, I was kind of a long time ago, as I have been in the community for 4 years now, but I don't know, I guess I'm just talking about this because I'm only like realizing it now, how much of a big effect it had on me, not only YouTube wise, but like mentally as well. And I feel like people don't always take things like that seriously, even though it can really become your life. And in this case, Bloxburg was my life for quite a few years, especially during quarantine. I should not be saying that word out loud though, should I? Yeah, but I don't know. I really hope that some of you actually listen to this and find this helpful. Maybe you needed to hear this, but it is going to be okay, and everything's going to get better. So it's just, we all go through some hard times, but the key thing to remember is that hard times always pass and better ones come, and it's always worth to wait it out, or just start acting, start making that change. But I need to kind of calm it down with this motivational speaking that I'm doing. So I don't know, what should I talk about? There's so many things that are on my mind, and I don't even know where to begin. I feel like there are a couple of topics that I have, which right now, every single time I'm doing stuff, which is all the time. For example, I'm driving, which I don't know if I even told you guys, but I did pass my driver's license, and it has been very fun to finally have a car, because here in Europe is literally one of the hardest things to actually get your driver's license. They make you suffer for no reason until you literally give it your all, and then they let you pass out of nowhere, which is always weird. But nonetheless, I did pass, and I've been having a lot of fun just driving. Honestly, I can't even tell you how much I used to hate taking public transport. You know, I sound like such a spoiled person right now, but it's genuinely one of the, well, not the worst things, but it used to be so inconvenient for me just because of where I live and stuff, and it was a big hassle to take the bus every single day to the city and out of the city, and it was just, oh my goodness, no. And now having a car, it made literally the biggest difference. Oh my god, I would not live without my car anymore. It's like when you're so used to everything that's convenient, it's really hard to go back to something that wasn't before. But you know, you didn't know how convenience felt, so you chose. You know what I'm trying to say? But now that I'm talking about this, I actually remembered an experience that I had, which was very weird. Not very weird. It's kind of like a fun story time, but it's funny when people start talking about you and you accidentally hear them talk about you. Not directly, you know, they're like not saying like, oh yeah, this guy, you know, they're like kind of trying to go around it so you don't fully understand what they're talking about, but you're not stupid, like you will catch on. So me and my friends, we actually decided to go to this kind of thrift shop, and these kind of things, they're not really common in my city, as it's one of the smaller cities in Europe. We only have like 600,000 people living here, probably even less than that if you want me to be honest. So the capital is Lithuania, is just not a big country in general. But from time to time, since it is the capital, we just do have these like cool little fashion events, and since I'm myself really interested into fashion, I always like to go, and I tried to go, and I have a few friends who do as well, and we were like, yeah, why don't we go? And we did, but we had to like sign up there. It was kind of like a big hassle, not only to sign up there, but there were time slots and you had to arrive at that exact time. And since now I'm driving a car, one biggest con of all when it comes to owning a car is parking, especially in European cities, because the city centers, since it's all like old architecture, there is no space to park your car, and if there is, they will most likely charge you for parking, and parking is so unnecessarily expensive. This is one of my adult struggles right now, because why is that so? And I sometimes refuse to pay for parking, so I look for other solutions. One being is just going into different courtyards and just looking for a place where there is no gate, where you can kind of just drive in and pretend that you're one of the residents and just leave your car, you know, go into the city and then come back whenever you need to. So that's what my friends and I did, but the courtyard that was open, the nearest one, was actually really far away from the place that we had to go, so we had to take the bus for a few stops. And I don't know, I've always had a very weird relationship with taking the bus, because I like my space. I like when I see that no one's really looking at me or anything. It's just kind of like, you know, I kind of need to be emotionally prepared to go into like public spaces. That's why I kind of like my car, because I don't know, no one will stare at me, you know, or I won't expect anyone to stare at me. And in the bus, you kind of can't control that, and that really gets annoying at times. But we got into the bus, we sat down, and basically this group of girls, they come right behind us, and we're just kind of chilling there, we're talking, whatever, and they were talking so loud, I could not overhear their conversation. It was, oh my god, what they were talking about. It wasn't even like anything bad, until they, out of nowhere, just start saying like, oh, you know when a guy's like really cute, but he's just really short. And I'm just like listening, okay, what is that? And yeah, then they were just like kind of talking about it. They were discussing it and stuff, how it's weird and stuff, and it's not like something people can control, which it was a weird conversation to have in the first place. And then we get out of the bus with my friends because it's our stop and we need to get off. And the moment we get off, my friend just starts laughing, and she's like, oh, did you see how she looked at you when she was talking about guys who are cute but short? And I was violated. I was so violated. You guys have no idea. I was never insecure about my height. I am 5'10", I believe, maybe a bit taller now. The last time I did measure myself was like a year ago, so take this with a grain of salt. But Nonetheless, I'm not that short, and honestly, there's nothing wrong with your height. It's like not even something we can control, which I find it kind of weird that people make fun of you for stuff like that in the first place. It's just kind of immature in my mind, but it just triggered something inside of me. I don't know what exactly, but it did, and I felt weird. I was just like, I felt flattered because, you know, she said, well, like, you know what, guys are cute, but at the same time, I was like, okay, I don't know. I guess in the end, I did take it more as a compliment rather than an insult. But it was just a weird situation, and it's just stuff like this that makes you feel really weird about taking a bus. Or just when random people just start staring at you, and you pretend that you don't see them staring at you, but you do. And it kind of gets funny, you know, because you can see that they're staring and they have no idea that you know. That was another example, but that was kind of my favorite story. I even really forgot about it, but I just randomly remember driving and seeing someone sitting in the bus, and I just remembered this. And it's also kind of funny when we have so many things like happening to us, yet we remember these things the times we need to remember them the least. It was like the most random time, but it was a fun story, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. It happened quite a while ago now. I want to say it was like a month and a half, if I'm not mistaken, even probably longer than that. Yeah, but my fall has been very weird because I have had so many experiences like that, and it's just, people are weird. And I can even imagine that people like have said worse things on the bus, and you know, the people they were talking about like hurt them. But I guess my tip for you, if you were to discuss someone on the bus, maybe try doing it so the other person doesn't understand it, because it's not as hard to do it as people think it is. But yeah, it was hilarious. But anyways, as I was really just, I don't know, talking about anything here in this video, we managed to do kind of the utility room, well, not the utility rooms. We finished the main living spaces, first things first. And then I'm doing the utility rooms right now. So you will see me decorating the laundry room in the next part. But I'll finish the half bath as well. I kind of like this half bath. I feel like people underestimate the power of these 2x2 little spaces, which you can like fully use them and make the most of them. And I feel like it's kind of like almost the perfect space for a half bath, you know, a powder room, which it is a half bath. That's another way to call it, a powder, but like a pantry even. What else? Just a closet of any sort, really. There's so many things that you can do with little spaces like that, and your house doesn't feel, I don't know, that spacious anymore. You know, a house needs to feel spacious, but it doesn't need to feel so big that you feel uneasy in it. And I feel like sometimes that's the problem with some mansions that I see, because a lot of them have that sort of, I don't know, this heavy, uneasy feeling that you go into them because of how big the spaces are. You know, they're like unnecessarily big. And sometimes it's just, I don't know, it can really ruin the house. And I feel like what really makes the house in the first place is the floor plan, because if you don't have a good floor plan intact, that means the rest of your build is just going to be really hard to continue with it, because, you know, your entire base is just kind of weirdly made. So yeah, my advice would be to just figure out your floor plan first, and only then you can start the exterior, the interior. I guess when it comes to the exterior, it still kind of depends, because with exteriors, sometimes you need to start on them and then do the floor plan as you go. I suppose facades of houses are just as important when you really think about it, but in my opinion, floor plans have to come first. I feel like it's kind of a hard task to actually do a floor plan that looks good not only on the inside, but it actually looks okay on the outside as well. And that takes a lot of work, but that's why sometimes it's easier to practice by doing the front of the house first, and then you kind of create the floor plan according to the front, if that makes any sense. But I guess that's it with my tips for today. It was a very random voiceover, and honestly, it's just how I'm feeling today. I'm feeling extremely random. Everything I'm doing is very spontaneous. I am barely making it on time with anything that I'm doing today. I'm a mess, but I hope that you still like this voiceover. I don't know, let me know in the comments if you are listening to this. You know, I always appreciate you guys who do. And yeah, I guess one thing I did forget to mention was my Patreon, not my Patreon, my contribee, which is basically Patreon. But you will see this video first on there. Yeah. And I completely forgot to mention that, which I probably should do it at the beginning of every next video that I do, but that is something for another time. And I am running out of time, so I will go now, but it was very nice to see you here, and I hope to see you more. So yeah, that is me signing out. Goodbye, guys.